Well, welcome to the Mavradio studio.
Yay!
Very glad to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me, Nate.
It's very special to have anybody that isn't too recognized with it or isn't in the daily operations to like check it out, especially given your position. You know, you have the entire university to, I don't know if you would describe it being managing or overlooking or however in the world you want to describe it. How
I'll
would you describe?
describe it as working alongside with all my Mavericks.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
I see there's photos online of you wear the tennis shoes to be able to make sure you can walk all around.
Yeah,
It is
yes,
a
yes. I love it. I love it. Yes.
Yeah, so but welcome to Mav Radio and we thought there was a great opportunity just to sit down, have a conversation, share it with students to really get to know you more.
Sure.
You know, I've read bios and things like this. You came in about a year ago and to get to know more on a video end and through a conversation, right?
Yes. It's been almost 10 months, not quite a year. Feel like few years under my belt because Omaha is such a great city and also state of Nebraska. I met a lot of great people. In a very short time, we developed good friendship. So I have to say kudos to Omaha, kudos to our Maverick family. Even though I've only been here a little bit less than 10 months, I feel like I've been here for a little bit longer.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to get to know your story a little bit cuz where were you before this?
I was in Miami, Florida.
Okay.
Similar weather as Omaha. No, just kidding. I was in Miami, Florida for a little bit over 4 years.
A little bit over 4 years. How's Miami down there and transitioning to Omaha?
Uh, Miami is a very different place, right? And now they said this is like the number one tech hub. And Miami has a lot of Latino culture in there. A lot of my students can speak Spanish and English. English actually is about second language to them. 70% of the households in Miami, English is not their first language.
70%.
70. So it's actually pretty cool in some way. And I have learned some important Spanish phrases, like how to order coffee, cafecito, that kind of thing. So
Okay.
develop a culture of drinking really, really strong coffee down there. But I'm coming back to my original. I'm a tea drinker.
A tea drinker.
Yes, Omaha, woke me up for like the love of tea again. So.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your favorite kind of tea? What is it?
I grew up in Hong Kong, so I drink all kind of tea. But my preferred choice now in adult, advanced age, I would drink English tea with oat milk and honey.
Oat milk and honey.
That's
yeah.
my preferred beverage. Yes.
In the transition from Miami over to Omaha, Nebraska, did you know what Omaha was before that?
Not really. Of course, I'm a finance professor by training. Everybody understand Omaha.
Mm.
You have Berkshire Hathaway, you have Warren Buffett, you have a lot of S&P 500, actually Fortune 500, and 1,000 companies here. And everybody heard about Omaha, right? And you have the steaks, you have all the good food here. But before the recruiter, found me, I've never set foot in Omaha. So during the whole interviewing process is very confidential, for Chancellor and President. And the first time that they brought me to Omaha, I was like, oh, okay, I have very little expectation what Omaha looked like. But after living here for 9.5 months, I was like, this is actually pretty cool. Everywhere I drive when I was I'm not very good with direction. Every time when I drive, I was like, well, this is cool. I discover, another new place of Omaha. So it's been wonderful.
Yeah, it's a little different with a sense of direction because we're landlocked here. Like down in Miami, you can say, okay, you look east and that's where the ocean is.
Right.
Like it's that way. But over here, you have to look towards downtown and kind of use that sense of direction in that angle. But how did you get into, being a chancellor? What's it look like before that? Because I'm so interested in that. I've never thought of was it a childhood dream or something? Or I don't know if many people believe it's a childhood dream or they're like,
so
yes.
I will tell you a secret, Nate. My childhood dream is I wanted to be a kindergarten teacher.
Okay.
I always wanted to be a kindergarten teacher. But how did I get into academic is actually interesting. I am a first generation college student. I grew up in Hong Kong, right? To me, as I was going to college, it's like, didn't even think about it. My parents ran away from communist China. So I decided one day, I got to leave Hong Kong because I need to see the world. Came to the United States, and this country has been very generous. If I make good grades, they help me pay for college. I was like, this is a good deal, right? So I graduated in college in 3.5 years. And I think by the third year, my professor was saying, I think you need to go to a PhD seminar. I said, what's that? What is a PhD? And they tried to explain to me, I said, we believe you have the intellectual capacity to go to, hang out with a PhD student. I said, all right. Went into a PhD seminar, of course, these are all really serious, looking at all the econometric models, that kind of discussion. I was like, this is weird, but it's kind of fun.
Where was this at?
Florida State. I'm
Okay.
a public university. I am a Seminole. Sorry for all the Gators. And so by the third year, I, taking an interest on, okay, I would like to find out more about it. But understand, right, I didn't really have that kind of concerted training at home. But I was very lucky. I have a lot of good professors, like what we can find here in UNO. And they really talk with me individually and say that we believe you can do it. Just go, whatever. So 3.5 years, I graduated with a summa cum laude. And then they all gave me advice. Go take all those geeky math. Go take all those math courses, engineering math courses, and apply for graduate school. And I said, well, do I need an MBA or a master? No, just take all the engineering classes. So I took all the engineering classes for 1 year when I was applying for graduate school. And at the time, I have quite a few choices. And some of them are executive MBA. They all agree because I have one criterion. If you want me to come to your school, you have to pay for it. I have no money, right? I want to be honest. I have no money. I need something to sustain my living. You have to pay for tuition and everything. So I was lucky I got quite a few offers, and I shall not name the school. Then my professor actually called me back. We want you to come back to FSU for the PhD program in finance, right? It's very difficult to get in, and we will pay for everything. You will not be rich. You'll be really like living in a very frugal life, but you won't die from poverty either. Right. So I said, all right, well, that sounds good, but I don't have an MBA. That's okay. We will allow you to take all the MBA classes the first year. We just don't put it on paper. We're going to let the listener hear this. So the first year I was taking all my first year PhD classes while I'm taking all the MBA classes. So even though I don't have an MBA, actually I finished all the MBA courses the first year when I get done with my PhD.
Mm-hmm. And where was the childhood dream then? Was it just, you were just going upon the path of academics and started diving into that world, or?
I remember when I was in my PhD, probably first and second year, met other, students from different programs, accounting or so. I still remember one of my friend in accounting. And I say, well, why do you want to get a PhD? Because I have no idea, right? He's like, it's the lifestyle. I said, what kind of lifestyle are you talking about? Well, as a professor, you can golf on Wednesday. I look at him like, I don't like to golf. Is that a problem? And they were like, so why are you here? I was like, well, because they pay for school, right? Being a first generation college student, I said, well, that's a good enough reason for me. But as I progress along in my PhD, journey, we're required to do research, we're required to teach or so. I actually developed the loving of teaching, right? Remember I told you my childhood dream was being a kindergarten teacher.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a little bit bigger kindergarteners in the classroom, right? I was teaching 4th year in business school. I was teaching multinational finance. And I was also loaned out to statistics department to teach quantitative method because my support area in PhD is econometrics, right? So, which is the theory of statistics, which is all math. And it was kind of fun. And I remember I got a graduate teaching award for the year.
Right on, congratulations.
I love it. I love it. And I started to realize, okay, wow, this is actually kind of cool. In a classroom, you'll be able to influence many students, right? So that's the beginning of the story. And like what I told you, all my undergraduate to PhD year, I was the recipient of multiple scholarship, right? I was able to finish school because of people's generous support. So when the time I get done with my PhD, I actually had multiple interviews across different continents, right? And I had opportunity to return to Asia, but I cannot walk away from this generous country.
Right.
This country gave me a lot of opportunity. It educated me. It gave me, a dream that I can pursue. So I decided to stay in the United States, and that's how I began my academic career.
Yeah, and it gave, you were super focused into it. You were committed, right?
Yeah.
To be able to.
So I was an assistant professor, started with in finance, and which is wonderful. I was enjoying it. And I remember the turning point is when I won the Dean Symposium. They only have one in a year. And I was given an opportunity to also present another university. So in front of a 300 people party, and I say, well, I'm sorry, I just remember I had to present my research paper in another university when I received the award. So I went and I did a presentation in another university. And then they knocked on my door. They said, well, we want you to apply for our chair as the chair of the finance department. I was like, first, at the time, I was the youngest one in the whole department. I said, are you sure this phone call was made to me? I can pass your message to some of my colleagues. They said, no, we just wanted you because we have seen something in you that you have yet to discover. And I was like, well, that sounds a really poetic way of asking, should you apply for the job? So I applied for a job. I became the chair of the finance department in that university. And then about maybe 2 years later, I stepped out of academic because I'm also a chartered financial analyst.
Okay.
So a headhunter knocked on my door and said, we want you to be our editor-in-chief in this CFA program. I was like, okay, I will be the only woman in the whole industry.
How was that? The thought of like living it through your eyes.
It's kind of cool because as a finance professor, I'm already a minority woman.
Okay.
It's always a minority in finance, right? So I said, all right, I will step out to be editor-in-chief for Chartered Financial Analyst just to prove that I could do that. But during that a little bit over a year time, you have a very stringent publication deadline. You manage many PhD, portfolio manager. They're all writing curriculum for you. And I really miss academic because professors are a very interesting group of people, right?
Right.
They're intellectually exciting, even though they disagree with you, but they're very diplomatic. I think we have another opinion of this, right? Instead of saying you're wrong, you know. So I really miss academic, but my calling is still really high ed. So in maybe less than 2 years, I returned to high ed, which most of the time people say that it's very difficult, right? Once you step out of high ed, especially if you have a tenure position, you know, it's difficult for you to return.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was like, well, someone will have to do it. So I returned to academic and I finished 2 and 3 years of my chair as a finance department. And I did fundraising. We created a investment lab for the university and I got recruited to be a dean. And I was like, well, you know, could I be a good dean? And I still remember my husband said, well, if such and such can be a dean, you can be a dean.
Right.
You just need to follow your heart and do the right thing. So the rest is history. So in 2016, I was nominated by my then president to attend ASCU, which is an association for American state colleges and university, to be one of the 24 proteges for Millennium Leadership Initiative. So back then, around 20-something years ago, there's a group of presidents get together and decide high ed needs diversity in leadership. It will bring goodness to high ed. So they have been very deliberate for 20-something years. So as far as I'm concerned, I am the only Asian woman ever attended that program in 20-something years of ASCU history. And the same year in 2016, I also went on and studied in Harvard for 2 weeks. No offense to all my Harvard colleagues. The first week I hated it. It was so boring. It's all theory. Mm-hmm. But by the second week, I had this epiphany to understand in high ed what leadership really needs to do, how we can actually help a university. Mm. So 2016 was my turning point in my career. And I will share with you one experience. So when I was in DC for the ASCU training for 1 week, we have to be in the conference room at 6:30. We kind of get done around 9-something. And usually evening, you will have a professor, actually a chancellor, or a president, or a system chancellor or system president will be the keynote. And they always start with first half, never ever want to be a chancellor or a president. It's the worst job.
They tell you that right off the bat?
Worst job. It's
the worst job.
It's the worst job. It's very difficult every day. You see a lot of challenges. Every day, a gazillion people going to line and tell you what you done wrong.
Okay, yeah.
The second half of the conversation, they always choke up. And they would say, now I'm going to tell you why you need to be one. And I was so touched because I agree with the first half of the conversation. It's a really difficult job.
Absolutely.
Because it's not a job. It's a life. Once you step in as a chancellor or a president, it's your life. And you really difficult to separate your professional life with your personal life. You have to give up a lot. Mm-hmm. But the second half of the conversation really touched my heart because I believe people like them created students like me, right? I am a direct beneficiary of all the goodwill of these people. And I'm talking about presidents and chancellor. They have been very substantial in U.S. high ed history, including dealing with a lot of difficult challenges racial inequity, high ed tuition, budget crisis, PR disasters. I was exposed to a lot of very seasoned presidents and chancellor. But I think that summer of 2016, I was exposed to a huge amount of goodwill, right? People, they're willing to put other people's interests, i.e. students, and the institution ahead of their own. They really influenced me. So after 2016, I have a lot of president and chancellor mentors.
Absolutely.
And they always say that the best gift you can give me is to be one day. And we would love to see that you will continue the goodwill of high ed. So.
Yeah. And so through that progress since 2016, time went on, and were you seeking to, like, that stuck with you? Were you seeking to be a chancellor just since then? It was just ingrained in you, or you were consciously pursuing it, or the opportunity arose and things like that? And
that's a good question, right? In high ed, Nate, many people will knock on your doors, right? But you don't want to be, I just want to be a chancellor or president for that sake.
Right.
You need to find an institution opportunity that kind of like share your purpose, right? Understand your mission and vision, right? So I actually went and picked up the job in Florida, Miami, and I graduated from Florida, and that's where I started. And when they knocked on my door to be the dean of the largest business school in the state of Florida, and at the time in Miami, I have 11,000 students, right? It's a research one school, and it has a lot of international students. I was an international student, and I say, this is a right fit, because the business school in FIU Miami is very much, it's kind of like an enterprise on its own. It's almost like a university with 11,000 students. And in very short time, FIU business became number 2 in the country in international business. In very short time, FIU business real estate program became number 2 in the world in research. Wow. And we were right behind National University of Singapore. If people understand National University of Singapore receives substantial government subsidy, we're actually doing really well, because we're like the state university, we're nobody. But we're really, really good in strategy and actually create a lot of opportunity for our students. When the time I walk out, FIU business ranked number 1 in the world in real estate research. We beat National University of Singapore.
Yeah. Are they still number 1? Do you know? Or
I think they're still number 1.
Yeah.
They're still number 2 in international business. So when I walk out, there are 20-something program already ranked at least the top 20 in the country. Yeah,
that'd be super hard to walk away from. Like you since you came over here growing up, and all your education, was focused and based in Florida, transitioning to Omaha, Nebraska is a very different scenario, and gaining an understanding of whether it's the culture or, the people around, and even geographically, as you're saying, driving around trying to figure out where you're going, was a huge change.
So I'm very proud of what FIU Business has achieved, along with my colleagues, my staff, and my students. I'm very proud of that. But achievement only indicates something in progress, right? What UNO attracts me is the student body here. I will tell you why, right? I'm a first-gen college student.
Okay.
I was an international student. I grew up poor, right? And actually, I see a lot of challenges of our students in UNO attracts me, because I can relate to them.
Yeah, you lived.
I understand how difficult it is to travel this journey. And this is my one biggest purpose that many people, close friends, will know, right? When the time I kind of like, people knock on the door in Florida, my friend asked me this, what are you after? What do you want to do? And then I said, I want to achieve that along with my students. I want them to have the opportunity that I had. I want them to be educated. I want them to be successful. I want to improve the social mobility and economic mobility, not only for them, but for their families and the community, because it means everything to me. But truth be told, my father passed in 2014. And at the time, my dad asked me, when are you going to return to Asia? And I said, today is not the day. I'm sorry to disappoint you, Dad. And he's like, what are you after? Same question, resurface in my life again and again, right? And I said, well, I have received tremendous goodwill from people in this country. I like to have a fair chance to return that favor. My dad's last words to me is, then go finish that job. Go do it. So I'm still very truthful to that vision and that mission. And I'm very proud to be able to serve UNO students. They mean everything to me. And many people know that I'm very student-oriented because I see the struggle as mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm delighted and waiting for that day to celebrate their success, because nothing can bring more joy to my life than seeing my students doing well in their own life and their career.
Absolutely. And you're doing your part with that because you've lived through that experience to be able to translate it. I think a part of that too is the reciprocated student effort as well that comes with it. Like, you committed everything, you dropped everything to come over here and dedicate your life to education, and the blessings came along with it. What's the balance of having that reciprocated effort from students? Some students, they procrastinate and aren't as motivated. How do we motivate people to really be successful? Because in Miami, the business college of business is very motivating. The structure and layouts to be able to learn of how to get to a higher standard, or succeed and get into business is there. How do you motivate students on a mass level? I mean, being the chancellor is on the mass level, kind of at the top. So I can do something with students together from person to person. I hear you are very student orientated. So how do you take that on?
So first, I want to say I'm humbly impressed by many of my colleagues and our staff. They work really hard. They always say that, wow, you see our student, they did that, they achieved that, they're all excited about it. So humbly serve alongside with my colleagues. Every day, I want to build a university. We want to create an environment that all are welcome. Students mature in different ways. They have a lot of family challenges. They have a lot of economic challenges. Our goal is kind of like, you're young, but if you watch The Runaway Bride, you see the bride say, stick with me, your eyes on me, come walk down the aisle, right? Our goal is to build that strong sense of belonging. This is your home away from home. Our goal is to make sure you're going to finish.
Mm-hmm.
Well, our goal is to make sure that we're going to place you when the time you work out from UNO, you will be gainfully employed. You're going to make a better life, right? So what I really want to tell a student, I understand all the challenges you see. I understand that you have to live through a lot of maybe family challenges, economic challenges, or you just exhausted working the third job and try to come to school. I understand that, but stay focused with us. Stay focused because better days is ahead of you. Believe in UNO is your home away from home. This is your family. Do not believe you're alone, because every one of us here coming to work is to make sure that you're going to be successful. Do not have any doubt, and try not to think like, oh, I'm going to bring all this and people don't understand me. I'm going to put all this thing in and bottle up. Don't do that. When you see things that I feel like I'm really exhausted, I'm like, I cannot walk anymore longer, pause and reach out for your support, because UNO is your family. Mm-hmm. So I want to make sure that all the students understand, I'm not trying to diminish all the challenges you have. I get it. I've gone through that. But I want you to know, right? Coming to college is to build a character, is to find a community that can relate to you, because it is important to hold on. Nothing, nobody can take away the education you receive. It will be forever imprinted in you. So take this opportunity and run with it. Don't walk away from it. And having you and everyone in school finish college, it's very important to all of us here. We wake up for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things for me when I thought of the university was the experience that you have. Mm-hmm. When the first time I visited this university, I thought it was so massive. I didn't know my sense of direction, and then I started coming here and I understood the geography and started to experience and make memories with people. Is there anything that are you creative? I think in your position, you have to have a sense of creativity with being a visionary and things like that. Is there anything on your radar about boosting the experience for the university?
So that's a great question, right? Everything's relative when it comes to size. And FIU is the fourth largest public university in the country with 58,000 students.
Wow.
Right. And then we have downtown operation, we have overseas operation, with 3 different kind of campuses. UNO has about 15,000 students, right? It's very big. We are the only 4-year public university in the city of Omaha. That means something. We're the only urban university. So, and I think particularly for the past 2 years, right, we are isolated. And I know young people are isolated social media wise, right? I'm like going to tweet, I'm going to like Instagram, I'm going to do whatever. So I want to invite my student to think, right? After the past 2 years, we got to reverse engineer ourselves because we are each other's natural habitat. What I mean is we get energy, creativity, and innovation, compassion, care, and attention from each other. So hold on to that. So I'm telling student affairs, I'm telling Kathy Pettit, I say, go and inspire your division. Find experience that we can promote the desire to congregate. What does it mean? I'm going to try to approve all the crazy concert we can bring into Baxter.
That'd be amazing.
Bring the students back, right? Let them feel the
Yeah.
power of the community, because care and attention only happen when we allow ourselves to be together. Not isolated in my kitchen, try to Zoom, right? While we understand technology improve and changes the way we learn, it is also important to understand how to celebrate each other in real person. After all, 70% of our communication is actually body language.
Absolutely, yeah,
Really,
nonverbals.
Yeah, yes, nonverbal. So I'm going to try to work with our student affairs group and try to think about all the fun things we can do, because learning is fun. While learning, sometimes we have to stay up late to study, but learning is fun because your heart grows with learning, right? This is actually a very important step to be an independent thinker, right? Because you treasure the moment when you're being challenged intellectually, you grow, your heart grow, your wisdom grow. So learning is fun. Come back, enjoy your friends, your colleagues, and student experience is part of the experience of learning.
Yeah, I think absolutely the experience is with that, because as you get challenged in classes and in courses and things like that, and through the progress of that, hearing other people's opinions and everything that you may not agree with, but being able to have the balance of going to a concert, for example, with all of them and put everything to the side that you work very hard on, and to be able to connect, and build, whether it's friendships or just have an experience and put everything on the side, I think is super, super important and special that, again, college students really embrace the experience they have. And so I've tried to brainstorm ways to boost that, right? And that makes me very glad that that's on your radar, trying to think of better ways to connect people, bring them together. COVID was definitely it was like a wasteland for a while here, and it was unfortunate. I remember speaking to faculty, staff, other students, and it was, depressing. There's so much space and opportunity that I see right there.
Right.
And it can't be utilized at that moment. So the bounce back and having someone in this position where it's on your radar is really special.
Yeah, and you're doing it, right? You're connecting people through your radio talk show. You're doing it, right? And I want many people to kind of be challenged and think about it. And we are living in a very critical time of history. There are many things happening, geopolitics around the world. We respond differently. But while we respond differently, as a community, we're here for each other. And I really believe that UNO is a very important player for the city of Omaha and for the state of Nebraska. Our students have very important tasks waiting for them. And we must be there for each other, support each other, because the future talent, workforce, retention rests on the shoulder of UNO. And our students should really think about, hey, here you learn, you grow, but at the same time, you're building a community for many generations to come. It is an important responsibility, but it's for us to make. So.
And so to be in your position as a chancellor, everything's a process. I was having a conversation with other Mavradio people and just people in general of the process and embracing the process of things. Because I'm sure in your position, you can release a newsletter and say, okay, this is the vision, but really it's a process to get there. And having people understand and accept it and understand that. What's the process like? You're 10 months in and rocking and rolling, I'm sure, very busy. What's the process of really getting down to the business of it?
This is actually a very good question. I love that you asked this, because most students like, I don't care, you do it in your office and whatever. But I'll tell you that high ed is a very different kind of industry. I worked in other industry before, right? High ed's very different. High ed doesn't really quite have the hierarchy. Even though I sit in the chancellor office, I'm just one of everyone, right? So high ed requires a very proper functioning of shared governance. Shared governance, usually within a university, the first two most fundamental constituency, student, professor. And then later on, when high ed as an industry evolves, become more complex, you have more regulation coming in, compliance coming in, and we have staff to support the backbone, operation of the whole university. Then you have administrator to provide strategy. And in your way, we're talking about process. So high ed processes require a well recognition of the shared governance spirit, right? When you want something to be done, it's not like, well, the chancellor said today we're going to do that and tomorrow it's going to happen. No, we have to socialize this kind of vision, the purpose. You have to kind of like seek their shared governance stakeholders, their feedback, their response, right? It is a very important process that distinguishes high ed as an industry versus other industry. Good or bad. Some people outside say, oh, it takes so long, 18 months for you guys to pass a policy. But there's a good way because there's so many intellectual minds here that they debate. And that in some way give a very good community to understand, hey, resource allocation. They give the community to understand, should we take on a particular curriculum? Should we march into a different kind of marketplace? So high ed has something that is very special. Like people that work in private industry before, outside high ed, they often have a very difficult understanding. Why do you guys have to talk about it? Can't you just send out a memo and be done with it?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work that way because
Right.
we honor the voices of all, right? We honor the process of, okay, right? One brain is smart, but many brains together even smarter. So we really believe in that make high ed a very special place for a lot of people. And I remember one time I was talking to a CEO that, in a very short time stepped in as a president.
Mm-hmm.
He actually said to me, Joe, listen, being a president is such a difficult thing in high ed because that's probably the most challenging task I have ever taken on because it's everything will have to take this process going through. And he's right for that. But actually, there is a great reward coming out from that prize because now you really honor a place that every single voice is welcome.
Yeah, and there's so many people at UNO too. We have the North and South campus with College of Business to Fine Arts and Media, and there's so many different people on different paths like that. So bringing in the data, and that's students, and then also professors as well, and all of those separate industries, right, that you have to bring together to create, whether you're creating policy or anything like that, but being the chancellor and being at the top and transitioning that into the process and embracing that is really special to hear.
Right.
So
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So what about the future? It's 10 months in, and I'm not sure how that works, if it's a tenure or how any of that works. Honestly, I'm not in that world whatsoever. I'm sitting here and I like to talk and chat with people. I don't understand that world. How does that work when it comes to being a chancellor and envisioning a future, getting it accepted and everything like that?
So I believe, I'm going to say it loud and clear with your audience, high ed is and shall be defined by urbanization. What does it mean? City of Omaha in 2024 is projected to have 1 million people. People is power. Any organization's success actually rests on people. Happy people, productive people. UNO is sitting at one of the most prosperous urban cities in the country. If you look at economic data, 75% economic activities are driven by 25 top urban cities. We have to work together to understand how to convert the power of people into the success of the community. The vision that I have for UNO, I believe UNO will continue to be very successful to drive the workforce development. Why do I say that? 40-something% of our student body is regarded as first-gen college student.
40%?
40-something%, right? And many of them is regarded as the first one ever in the whole entire family attending college. Now, what does it mean when it comes to high ed? Well, the state of Nebraska has the second lowest unemployment rate in the country. Bad news. Bad news. Why is it so? Because we don't have enough people, right? Unemployment rate can be regarded as natural unemployment rate or the really unemployment rate. In U3 and U6, for all the economic students out there, U3, U6, you should know. But anyway, so Nebraska is still the second lowest unemployment rate. So what do we need to do as a state? We need to seek out traditionally students that may not even think about coming to college. Let's bring them in, like our first gen college student, like student, family never been to college. Or we have to do better of seeking outside the state of Nebraska talent to bring into the state of Nebraska. So UNO actually is a mixture of these two kind of endeavors, right? Our goal, as I share with you, 40-something% first gen, and we are going to place the state of Nebraska in the most competitive way in future economy, because the workforce development requirement will be focusing on more 4-year graduate rate, graduate student, and also quality workforce development, right? So I think I read some statistic about 50-something thousand jobs in the state of Nebraska, and big majority of them require 4-year degree. Yeah. So our job here is to create what I call the incremental increase in workforce development. Okay. If UNO succeeds in this journey, we'll be able to train and convert many candidates into a quality workforce talent, and then they will support the state in growing into the next future economy. So I really believe that UNO is doing a fantastic job for that. And also our student body is the most diverse compared to the other 3 institutions within the system. What does it mean? We have the most natural reflection of what a modern workforce should look like. And now we just talk about the other side of the campus, right, over at Saban. Look at what UNO has done. This is a concept of modern university is supposed to be. You integrate learning with living, with fun, with entertainment, with athletic events. That's what a modern university is supposed to be. Mm-hmm. I travel around the world. This is what we are looking for the next level of high ed. We participate in a way that we integrate with the community. So there's no better candidate than UNO can do that. Right
Absolutely
now.
For the growth too. There's so much potential that is held within it. We don't have UNL has the football over there, over yonder.
Hockey.
We do have the hockey.
We have the baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so that's what's so cool about it. But there's so much growth that I see with it, and it's super exciting that UNO has a visionary to envision that, to be able to bring it around. And thank you so much to be able to commit your life to build up to this point, and to be able to commit your life to this. I'm sure your family and everybody appreciates the hard work you put in, especially the strict schedules and everything like that, having to now deal with inclement weather, even though this last winter wasn't bad at all compared to last. You weren't here last winter, were you? Yeah, last winter we had set record highs with snow, and I'm sure you'll be able to feel that at some point compared to Miami. Definitely totally different. But we're going to head out of here. I really appreciate you spending some time and sharing your vision, your past and history about that. Last question is, what's your favorite genre of music out there? If you had to name one or a few, what do you listen to in the day-to-day, in your car, on the radio, maybe with your ear pods? I don't know if you rock those, but.
Okay. I actually serve on the opera Omaha. I love opera.
Right on.
But if you have to ask me what is the one artist you like, I love Lady Gaga.
You do?
I love Lady Gaga. And to all my listeners here, I want to say one thing to you, Nate. And among all the most important job that I have as a chancellor here at UNO, one of my biggest job is to love my people. Whether you're student, faculty, and staff, I'm here. And this is one of my biggest job, is to love our people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nate.
Chancellor Li.
All
there
right.
you go.
Thank you.
Right on.